We're going to talk a little bit today about when Mike first got involved with Partha and gaming, and how we came to start Iron Wind. So, I don't think I remember you when you first joined the company. I don't think I met you until a number of years later.
Yeah, actually, in early summer of 1982, I hadn't had a job in over a year. Really wasn't looking for one, and some friends that worked at Partha called me up one day and asked me if I wanted a 2-week temporary job for minimum wage, stamping serial numbers in the bottom of something called the Imperial Dragon.
Yeah, I remember that piece.
So
that was our first limited edition dragon, I think.
I spent about a week or so hammering numbers into the bottom of the dragons,
Yeah.
and then they decided to keep me on. Ended up working in the packing department, doing some casting, running the packing department, and then eventually was factory manager.
Yeah, I think that's when I met you. I think Chuck Crane was running the company at that point, and I started coming over to the company a couple of days a week to help out with production planning and product planning, things like
Yeah.
that. I think
at that point, I was factory manager. I was setting up for the conventions, doing the conventions, helping out with managing the sculpting department, and pretty much anything that needed done. So.
And then a few years after that, we sold the business, and I think you stayed on as factory manager and then continued to run the company for the new owners.
And then when the new owners pretty much didn't know what to do with a metal company, I was given the opportunity to take it over.
Right, that's when you started Iron Wind, and
got back with you.
and we started this up. So, were you a gamer when you joined Iron Wind?
Nah, well, I had gamed a little bit at the time I started in probably about 1979. Some friends asked me if I wanted to go over to one of their older brother's place and play this weird game called Dungeons and Dragons. And the game was cool, but what was really fascinating to me was the little bitty figures that they were using to play the game. Just amazing tiny little sculpts. And I found out that they were a company called Partha that coincidentally was in Cincinnati, hometown. And shortly after that, I started running a D&D game myself and found a local game store and went up and bought a bunch of packs of figures, some of which are still in our line, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a common bond between you and I. I also really love the little tiny figures with incredible detail on them.
Yeah, that was back in the days before the arms race started, where everybody started saying, let's make them bigger and bigger and bigger. Actually these days, if we're at a convention and you show young people a true 25 millimeter, they think it's a 15.
Yeah.
And I was always into the fact that you could capture that incredible detail in something that small.
And I think that one of the things that was amazing for me, I grew up in gaming and started with old 30s that were, they were fine, but they weren't very, very beautifully sculpted. And I remember the first couple of times I saw when Tom would sculpt pieces in the early days of Partha, they just took my breath away because they were so beautifully executed. They were tiny. They were really true 25s. They were tiny little figures. The detail was incredible. The faces were incredible, and the action that Tom was able to capture just kind of took my breath away. I've been in love with them ever since.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get in right at the golden age of all that, when you had Tom Meyer, Dennis Mize, Julie Guthrie, Bob Charette, and all the good classic stuff. And actually, that's kind of what we're trying to bring back.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
Yeah, a couple of years after we started the company, we had that opportunity to really to buy back the old Partha figure line. We had, up until then, we had the rights to manufacture it, but they offered us the right to buy them back, and scraped together a bunch of money. I think I took a loan from my retirement plan, and we bought we bought them back, and I think we've been talking about this ever since.
Yeah, and actually we are setting up and going to play a game here this afternoon if you got time to stick around.
I'll try to stay. I can stay for a while and be glad to roll some dice with some old friends.
Fantastic.